as you may be able to guess from the World of Warcraft music playing in the background right now, shout out to Eversong Woods, by the way. We love our Blood Elves out here. You can probably imagine I'm an Asmongold fan, or I was an Asmongold fan. There was a time where he was the #1 WoW creator. And for good reason, too. Who better than him to encapsulate everything that makes a true WoW player? He's a NEET. He's played it for decades. He's, like, balding and physically falling apart, lives in a pigsty. His teeth are rotting. He, wakes himself up with a dead rat. The smell of a dead rat is his alarm clock, assuming he didn't make that up. To be fair, he does rage bait, so that could have been a lie. He's had roaches crawl on him while he's live. Like, this man lives in a level of squalor that would make many Hoarders guests, kind of blush. And he no-lifes that shit. He knows WoW well. He was the guy to represent the WoW player. And if you were let's be real, if you were a Chad, such as myself, who plays WoW, a game that has a reputation for its players being, overweight, not exactly lookers, massive neats and losers, virgins, etc. Someone like me, who's pretty good looking, has had pretty good amounts of sex, it kind of gives me this sense of, yeah, I'm above most WoW players. This is the guy who represents most of these people. I got my shit together compared to this guy. I am like a marble statue of perfection surrounded by trash piles when I enter World of Warcraft's community. It gives you that sense of, validation, right? And so Asmongold had a lot of good reasons to be the top of the World of Warcraft sphere. But then something happened. Now, Asmongold always did React videos, and when he was doing WoW content, his React content was oftentimes some of his best. Reacting to WoW videos, he had so much knowledge about WoW, and so many stories connected to it, that his tangents, his stories, his stunlocks were always interesting and generally insightful and well-substantiated. He was in his wheelhouse, and he was generally quite well-reasoned. I actually once said that I thought he was one of the most well-reasoned figures on all of Twitch. But then something happened. While he was live streaming WoW, he got into a little bit of a burnout phase. WoW was in a state where Blizzard was not handling it well, and there was a lot of scandals as of late, and he was making a lot more money and getting a lot more views, shit-talking Blizzard, and performatively boycotting WoW than he was playing WoW. And right around that time, a big story hit. The Amber Heard v. Johnny Depp defamation case. A case that, for many people, they thought the stakes were Amber Heard made an allegation, and if found guilty, Johnny Depp will go to prison and his life will be ruined. In reality, it was a defamation suit where Johnny Depp was suing Amber Heard after failing to sue her in America, was suing her in the UK, where it is easier to win a defamation suit because they don't have the First Amendment there. So, I think that's interesting. I think that's neat. But regardless, the entire internet came to the support of Johnny Depp. Many men's biggest fear is a woman falsely accusing them of abuse or rape or sexual assault, and their lives being ruined because of it. It doesn't help that it happens. And it almost exclusively happens to prominent men. Those are the only men in which there's really a reason to do that to. There's something to be gained from making a false accusation like that. And because it pretty much exclusively happens to prominent men, the cases in which it does happen will always get attention, which will naturally create a false sort of perception that it's common, right? We're talking everything from YouTubers to Hollywood celebrities, right? The false Me Too allegations happen. It's happened. It's happened to me multiple times. And, it happened to Slazo. It happened to a bunch of people. And because of that, people's perception is it's way more common than it really is, because it happens almost exclusively to people with so many eyes on them that it's guaranteed to get a lot of attention when it happens, right? And that creates a massively disproportionate assumption, or an assumption of a massively disproportionate case to the reality, right? And so people flock to Johnny Depp, whether it be out of an ideological desire to see Amber Heard get crushed, because it meant the fall of Me Too, or because they simply saw it as an example of what they so greatly fear in getting false allegations sent their way that could ruin their life. And they all thought that this was ruining Johnny Depp's life. Yes, this multi-millionaire who could retire and live a life of luxury, his life has been ruined. But, like, he sues her, he proceeds to win, massive public support, everyone, I think he won, it's been a while, massive public support. Asmongold covers every second of this trial, garnering record viewership. He quickly grew a massive new portion of his audience from it too, that were far louder than the WoW fans. And slowly but surely, he started doing political react content far more. And when I say react content, I mean just reacting to right-wing political videos and nodding and saying, oh yeah, while basically sending his massive audience to go support that right-wing content. This is a big part. I know this may sound crazy. I promise you, Asmongold played a substantial part in the proliferation of the right-wing media scape on Twitter and YouTube over the last 3 years. Asmongold is one of the largest streamers on all of Twitch. He averages tens of thousands of viewers per stream, and that means that over the course of one stream, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people come in and out of his stream. This guy is enormous, and he spends all day boosting right-wing meme posters like Mark Kern, aka, what's it called? Grums. Literally 90% of his platform came from Asmongold fans. You want to know who else has the platform they have today, primarily because of Asmongold? The lolicon YouTuber Rev Says Desu. Asmongold has gone from one of the biggest anime haters ever, and where he performatively refused to play FF14 because its art style is even approximating that of anime, and it comes from Japan. That's close enough for him. And EU anime. He went from that to, in the span of a year, watching lolicon VTuber videos about how these tourists are only calling lolicons pedophiles because they want to normalize kids transitioning. So, yeah. That's basically the narrative, right? And Asmongold has continuously played into these ideas over and over and over again, watching these creators' videos, boosting them, and now a couple years later, we've gotten to the point now where he's had to issue multiple apologies. And this is not a guy who generally apologizes, but he's accidentally let the mask slip a few times where he said some stuff that was really bad that he had to apologize for, because he really had the whole internet going after him. But more recently, his audience has gotten so radicalized, and I think he's even gotten so radicalized that his channel... I have gone from being someone who tries to be charitable to Asmongold to fully on board with fuck this guy. He's a genuine piece of shit. Let's take a look at his recent uploads. Doge is moving too fast. Trump just gave us a big update. Joe Rogan on LGBTQ brainwashing. They keep making videos about me. She's crazy. The most NPC shit I've seen. Mind you, his editor is a Nazi. That's the person titling and thumbnailing these videos. Artist Twitter is crazy. You don't hate the media enough. American streamers are not safe in Japan. This one is just a video going off of the, like, unanimous hate that everyone has for those, like, nuisance streamers going to Japan and fucking with people. Israeli PM is crashing out. That's fine. CBS host says Holocaust happened because of free speech. This can't be real, LGBTQ. I'm done. And it's a gaming video. China's infiltration of YouTube. Trump and Elon Musk, legacy media will not divide us. Idiocracy is not a comedy. It's a documentary. but he's totally not talking about the fact that what I love is when conservatives try to say Idiocracy has come true, a movie that depicts a society in which there is no education system, no one understands or researches anything, and the president is someone who came from the WWE scene. Somehow they say that, they make that comparison, and they don't mean Trump. Guys, Idiocracy has come true, but no, we're not talking about the retarded WWE star that's now our president, just like in Idiocracy. No, don't draw that comparison. We mean the left. That literally holds no power in this country now, by the way. I can't do this anymore. IGN is crazy for this. You can't tell me this game is gonna be good because women. Ice raids create ghost. He's done some videos saying he wants... Asmongold has now come out and said he wants to help with the ice raids. He wants to go and live stream the raids and, like, cheer them on. He said he's, like, actively working to get invited to, like, live stream ice raids. What happened to No BS? That dude was wild. No BS really should have stuck around. If he was, like... If he was around today, he would be flourishing. Anyway... I wanted to show you guys this video because I want to really emphasize something. Asmongold has gone from just a guy watching some chud content from time to time and falling for their talking points, all the way to fully radicalized. I want to show you what fully radicalized for most people looks like. It's when you've been convinced the left is after you so much that now all that matters to you is that the left gets hurt. That this imagined boogeyman that the right has created, that they call the left, it doesn't even have to be anything affiliated with the left. As long as it's getting hurt, that's all they care about. In this video, really it's just one clip I want to show you here. I think it's towards the beginning. Let's watch. If you don't believe me that these people get no more joy out of anything else in life than the fact that you're suffering, you're about to find out how true that is.
USA paid Politico to have Gamergate smeared.
There's
it
Grums.
Actually fucking happened. The crazy, stupid conspiracy theory turned out to be
Ian
true.
Miles Chung, the literal swatter.
You can imagine when you suddenly in your inbox find a termination notice or a leave of absence notice that you didn't expect to get on a flawed predicate that you're doing radical leftist insubordination. It's pretty jarring. And because there's so many lies and falsehoods circulating, and so many claims that people are sort of not with the program, I think people are just completely dislocated. There's no...
It's actually insane how this guy gets all of his news that he's shilling to his, like, millions of viewers consistently. I'm pretty sure he pulls millions of viewers per stream. Not concurrently, but just because he's pulling tens of thousands concurrently doesn't mean over the course of, like, a 12-hour stream, like, people are constantly leaving and going. So he's probably getting millions of views per stream on, like, a VOD. If not hundreds of thousands for sure. But regardless, like, he's shilling to this audience these ideas that, like, come from Mark Kern, a grifter who is actively under fire for having gone over a decade not delivering on the most overpriced fake game Kickstarter I have ever seen. That M8er game, or Ember, or whatever it's called. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Ember, with an 8 for a B, but, like E-M-A-R, Ember. Like, not a real game. He's charging, like, thousands of dollars for, like, special, like, supporter editions of this game that has still not come out. But this is the guy who we should trust with his, like, narratives about the gaming industry. Mind you, Grums, the guy who he's getting his news from here, is the same guy who unironically claimed that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been in development since well before the George Floyd killing, and that Ubisoft originally had a male Japanese samurai protagonist in his place, saw the George Floyd protests, saw how, quote, according to Mark Kern, profitable they were, quote unquote, and redesigned the character to be Yasuke. And then here's the kicker. This is the kicker of Mark Kern's conspiracy. Source, by the way, 4chan. That they deliberately designed him to look like, and I quote, to look like George Floyd, to I forget what the word he used was, to capitalize. He used the term capitalize off of the George Floyd protests. That is a actual talking point about AC Shadows that this man who Asmongold takes his news from actually put forward to his millions, I guess, of followers on Twitter.
Stable ground on which to walk. And then, of course, most of them have been laid off, so they're worried about how they're going to pay the bills and how they're going to make rent.
That's what happens
when you get fired.
But maybe the part
that is the most striking and, for me, inspiring, if not surprising, having worked there for 4 years.
She can do DoorDash.
Is that, the people who work at USAID did not come to work at USAID for the money. The civil servants, the foreign servants, the contractors, they came to USAID because they want to make a difference in the world. Because
that's the problem.
That's the hilarious thing, by the way, is that, she's not even the one getting fired. She's talking about other people getting fired. Asmongold is so stupid and lacks listening comprehension so much that he doesn't recognize that, that she's talking about federal USAID workers getting fired and federal workers getting axed. She works at a media corporation, not USAID. She's not the one getting fired, but he's insulting her, yeah, you're getting fired, because he doesn't even understand what's happening. He thinks it's the epic, the media is getting shut down. Finally, they're shutting down the media. They really want the media shut down. They want all news to come from the internet.
Yep, that's the problem. See that? Yep, see, you figured it out. That's it.
True.
Learn the code, yeah.
They saw America's interests as tied up with the interests of people, vulnerable people around the world.
That's right. That's exactly why you're fired. You're going to be working in DoorDash. That's it. Working on DoorDash on welfare. Thank God. Taking our tax money, giving it to random ass fucking countries so they can do drag shows. See ya. See ya. Too bad. Have fun.
Not true, by the way.
And so even as they're struggling to figure out how to make rent all of a sudden, they're most struggling with the fear that so many millions of people who relied on us as a country, on USAID as an agency, but on them as individuals.
Yeah, we fired them and we don't give a fuck about those people. Get them out. That's it. I love how people like this.
This guy worked at the IRS.
I wonder if they realize that this is like porn for people that voted for Trump. Do they know that? This is the best case scenario.
Look at the chat.
Yeah, this is, how many of you guys watch this and you're like, yeah, and then, oh, everybody, you're sad, and then there's all the people that don't have, oh, wow, yeah. This is, I'm gonna be honest, I'm so happy to watch these videos. I hate these parasites. Get them the fuck out. Absolutely. No sympathy here? Fucking zero from me. Absolutely. It's cathartic, yes. These guys are posting their own L's.
The irony of Asmongold calling people parasites, by the way. We're streamers, dude. We're the biggest parasites there is, dude. Asmongold makes more money than me. That makes him a bigger parasite than I am. I get to call him a parasite. The gall of Asmon, a streamer, to call anyone else a parasite, especially when you consider his living conditions, which is literally worse than most parasites, because most animals keep their body cleaner than Asmongold keeps his house.
That those individuals out in the world have no place to turn. Indeed, they're showing up and finding health clinics shuttered and soup kitchens closed and advisors who were helping governments renegotiate debt with China, those advisors, now taken off the books.
That's right.
So just the wreckage in the world is what...
Did you see how many Keck W's in chat over the soup kitchens thing? They loved that. They love closed soup kitchens.
The USAID staff that I'm in touch with are carrying with them. That's what's keeping them up at night, as much as the question of what am I going to do tomorrow and, how do I take care of my family?
God, bro, I've never seen a bigger W. See ya, bitch. Go work at DoorDash. Go do Uber Eats. Go work at McDonald's. Put the fries in the bag. Thank God. Get the fuck out of here. What a waste of everybody's fucking money. What a complete waste of literally billions of dollars, bro. Billions of dollars wasted on these retards. You're wrong, especially about her. If you're in charge of this shit and you're okaying different types of advocacy programs for social issues across the world, you are using my tax money in a way that I will vote against. That's really just...
What I love about this is, the things that Asmongold has been propagandized to are things like, one of my favorite examples was the claim that, what was it, 30 billion or something? It wasn't even that, but it was they claimed that 100 million or something went to condoms for Gaza. And that sounds, to the average American in this current political climate, or $50 million for condoms in Gaza, that sounds like, to the average American, that U.S. aid, U.S. tax dollars, are paying for what most Americans right now seem to lean towards thinking are terrorists to have protected sex for fun. And not, like, I guess, procreation, I guess, because condoms are a luxury, right? So why should we pay for those? Very deliberate, right? Now, conveniently, it just so happens that they left out the little detail that it's not Gaza, the one next to Israel, it's Gaza, Mozambique, a place in Central Africa that has had massive HIV and AIDS outbreaks that have spread throughout the world, particularly affecting America. It's where AIDS and HIV, it's one of the originating locations. And so it is the prerogative of wealthy, powerful nations to invest money into eliminating disease in the places it comes from, because if you eliminate the source of a disease, it never comes to your country for you to have a massive COVID-like response to at all. There doesn't need to be shutdowns. There doesn't need to be any, like, masks or vaccines or anything like that. There's no one getting sick, no big problems, because you stop it from happening in the first place. But let's be honest, most of these people don't care. And frankly, most of them will never, ever, ever accept that reality. They want to believe that condoms were going to Gaza and that now $50 million has been saved from, like, they want to believe that now they're not going to have to pay income tax because we were wasting all this money. All right. It is a fantasy. Every American wants Trump and Elon's narrative to be true. We all want it to be true. We all want it to be true that there is billions and billions and billions of dollars that the federal government has been wasting on unnecessary things that are doing nothing. That if we just eliminate these wastes, that the amount of tax burden on the average American will decrease exponentially, possibly down to no taxes. That is what many Americans are hoping and praying for. It is what Trump and Elon have promised. The problem with that is these funds were going to things that improve their lives in ways that they are too dumb to understand. We'll have to see if they're too dumb to understand how it hurts them when these things go away.
It's that simple. So you might not like that. You might think, oh, well, that's mean to say, but fuck that. Fuck that. I don't care. You're right. You are right, especially about her. Yeah, exactly. She's the one in charge. Yeah, exactly. And I love how a millionaire is for Trump. You think I give a fuck about that? I don't care about the taxes part. That's not even the point. It's not about a millionaire.
Of course not. No. Of course not. Of course not.
Trump. Oh, wow. Trump's going to cut my taxes. I hope he raises my taxes. That way we can put people.
But he's not going to, though. It's very easy to say, I hope he raises my taxes when he is running on a tax policy that will cut Asmongold's taxes the lowest any president has ever cut millionaire and billionaire taxes in U.S. history. Working class people, if you make like six figures or less, you're fucked with Trump's tax policy. Your taxes went up under Trump in 2016 to 2020, if you remember. And they went down under Biden. But trust me, it's very easy to say, I hope he raises my taxes as a millionaire when he ran on a platform saying he will lower your taxes as a millionaire. It's very easy to say that and lampshade that criticism.
People like this back in mental institutions, and we can solve the problem, and people won't have to worry about it anymore. So
we need to start putting people like this in mental institutions. The head of USAID should be put in a mental institution. The trend that the Republicans have been pushing for the last few days is the Democrats are done. Their narrative has been that they have found actual evidence. They can't show us, but actual evidence of voter fraud on such a grand scale that Elon and Trump have implied that Democrats may have only gotten tens, if not hundreds of thousands of votes in the last, at least the elections Trump were involved in. Elon and Trump are trying to push the claim that the Dems falsified 99% of their votes. And they are going to pursue criminal charges on those grounds in a government fully controlled by Trump that does what Trump says. And because the government will be doing these things, these people will see that as the full validation. Asmongold will be like, look at that, they're putting them in prison. That's literally impossible. Keep saying that till they do it. But what I really wanted to show you about this was this clip in particular, and really the scorn. You know, we got there's the America First suit Pepe in chat. That Asmongold seems to have the America First Groiper Pepe as a chat emote. That's interesting. It's so weird how Asmongold back in 2020 went from banning the tryhard emote when people would spam it in chat. And he would say, you know what you're doing is racist. You know what you're doing. And his chat would try to play dumb, and he would say, you know what you're doing. And then he'd ban the emote from chat. It's funny how he went from that. 4 years later, he has whitelisted and added, as a custom emote, it would seem, the Pepe in a Suit America First emote. The Nick Fuentes emote. Either that streamer, or either that chatter is like sub to a streamer who has that emote approved by Twitch, or Asmongold has added that as an emote himself. Regardless, Nick Fuentes fan. Interesting. I just think that's interesting. I just think that's interesting, you know? Twitch needs to drain their swamp. They won't. Twitch has like an actual anti-Semitic trust and safety team. I thought it was an over-exaggeration because, to be fair, like, some people can go a little over the top when they criticize Hassan, but people did a background check on the social media presence of the two heads of the trust and safety team at Twitch, and one of them in particular is like a hardcore like black nationalist, or I should say black separatist, like anti-Semite. Like they believe that like black people are the real Jews and that white Jews are fake. And this was like a big movement a few years ago on Twitter before Nazis took over Twitter, was the Black Nazi movement. She's basically a black Nazi, is the lady who runs the trust and safety team. She's got tweets going back like 10 years of her talking about how like white and Israeli Jews are fake Jews. It's like actually insane. That is the woman who's the head of the moderation team at Twitch. Mind you, Twitch behind the scenes secretly, without saying anything, banned all Palestinian and Israeli users from making accounts on Twitch for a whole year. It took a whole year for an American streamer to find this out and to expose it, and Twitch tried to cover it up and claim it wasn't intentional. But for a whole year, deliberately written into Twitch's code, because we have access to that, by the way, all IPs from like that region, which includes Palestinians, by the way, they were banned from starting Twitch accounts. Never published. Twitch has never done this. For example, I guess analogous case would be in the case of Ukraine and Russia. You can still make an account on Twitch if you're Ukrainian or Russian. There are many other similar situations where they've never done this before. They've never done that. But only in the case of Israel-Palestine, their team members, like a low-ranking team member could have done this, by the way, had access to the code to go behind the scenes and ban all Israeli and Palestinian IPs from making accounts on Twitch, which of course conveniently, through the course of this entire war, took the voice away from actual Palestinians and actual Israelis, and thus allowed the entire conversation on Twitch to be exclusively dominated, as hard-coded into the platform's code, exclusively dominated by foreigners who aren't even a part of the conflict. Which, of course, should never be the case in any situation like this. It was one of Destiny's orbiters who exposed it, yeah. But it is real. Like, it is real. Doesn't matter who exposed it. Like, the code is there. Twitch had to respond. It was so real. You know, if it wasn't real, then Twitch wouldn't have said, yes, this was unintentional, and own up to the fact it happened. Yeah, it was real. Fucked up shit, though. We are in crazy times. But what I really wanted to focus on for this segment is the fact that Asmongold went from somewhat shutty gamer to so radicalize to the right that he and his chat of Nick Fuentes fans and grifters are celebrating the idea that the head of federal institutions are going to get fired and not have jobs, not be able to feed their families. The idea that you are suffering brings them joy. As he says himself, it is like porn for them. It is like porn when they see you suffer. I've pointed this out before, that there have been studies done to scan the brains of conservatives and the brains of liberals based on like voter ID is how they identified it. And they've done studies where people submitted themselves to see certain stimuli and have their brains scanned to see what parts light up. For liberals, well, what they did a lot of was showing videos of people getting hurt. So like America's Funniest Home Videos type videos of people getting hurt, you know? Like not super serious injuries, but definitely like, ooh, they might have to go to the hospital, right? For conservatives, they found that 3 core centers of the brain lit up at about like a ridiculously higher rate than the liberals. When they saw pain and suffering, the parts of their brain that associate with comedy, relaxation, and even sexual arousal activated the most. Thus, they were seeing a massive dumping of serotonin and dopamine upon seeing people suffer. Just period. It doesn't even have to be people politically. Just people suffering or getting hurt. Conservatives, more often than not, like, yeah, liberals wince, conservatives laugh, right? They actually feel something almost approximating sexual arousal when they see people hurt. Not exactly sexual arousal. It's not the exact same part of the brain, to be clear. Like, but a lot of the same parts light up. So it's very close to sexual arousal. It's closer to relaxation, though, funnily enough. Like, they feel relaxed more than anything when they see people get hurt, which I kind of think is more fucked up than being sexually aroused. Like, it relaxes you to see people get hurt. So there's that, right? But then, when they scan Democrat voters' brains, they see that there was one other part I forgot to mention, the disgust center. When they expose conservatives to new things, it doesn't have to be anything. It can be a food. They really focused on food, new foods, new clothings, pictures of streets and cities in other countries, and things like that. For conservatives, the disgust centers of the brain lit up the most, while for liberals, the curiosity and logic centers of the brains and the creativity centers of the brain lit up the most. On the left and right brain, both sides lit up in creativity and logic centers. Like, inspiration came about upon seeing new things, while disgust and fear lit up in the brains of conservatives upon being exposed to new foods, new people, new clothes, new streets, like pictures of cities they'd never been to. It scares and disgusts conservatives. It inspires and excites progressives. When exposed to pain, or not pain, but people getting hurt and bad things happening to people, while conservatives feel relaxation and arousal, obviously a sense of revulsion and empathy in those centers of the brain lit up for progressives. A very simple way of wording it is, when people get hurt, conservatives laugh and liberals wince. There is, and this is not an inherent thing, to be very clear. No studies have suggested that these brain chemistry patterns are inherited by genetics whatsoever. It is actually highly supported, in fact, that people can change this brain chemistry with simple opinion and logic and opinion changes, right? People do not, by default, tend to have those parts of their brain light up with those stimuli. They've been trained to. And for a lot of, I think, Gen Z young men, I think us growing up laughing our asses off at people getting hurt on the internet might have conditioned our brains to function in such a way where it's not necessarily that you've been propagandized to and had the slate set to be conservative. It's more so that your brain has been programmed to act in such a mean-spirited way and thinks in such a mean-spirited way that a compassionate liberal explanation for something comes off as fantasy and wishful thinking, while a cruel conspiracy conservative worldview comes off as a harsh, like, truth. And they're conditioned to see the world in harsh truths, that the world is tough and unfair, and so the harshest, most mean answer must be the truest one, right? It can't be a happy-go-lucky, empathetic, wishful thinking liberal answer. It has to be something cold and mean and rough and brutal like the real world is, you know? My lights went out. I need to... There we go. There we go. And so I think this mindset that the internet does kind of promote, even if you've been using it from a young age, might condition a lot of people to trend towards progressive or trend towards conservative more than progressive these days, with how much rage bait, anger, people getting hurt, bad things happening to each other, just humor at the expense of others and in like bad situations, right? Might be conditioning people, right? Like, for example, one of the biggest memes right now is just about cave divers dying. Just straight up. Like, right now, one of the biggest memes among Gen Z are just jokes about cave divers dying. Mind you, these same cave divers are the same people whose very specialized skill set are why those kids in that flooded cave a few years back were saved. Because there are people crazy and skilled enough who do that frequently enough. They have the training, know-how, and knowledge to do that shit. Many of our top-tier military do that shit. They're cave divers. They have to cave dive as part of their testing. For like, I think it's the SEALs, right? And so, like, Gen Z has created, and I know this looks like it's looking too deep into it, but Gen Z has created a meme focused on deriding joy from the deaths of people, many of which are training to do stuff like what those cave divers who saved those kids in the cave did. And that's just it. That's comedy. The comedy is they died. The comedy is they squeezed into a tight place, they did something dangerous, and then they died doing it, right? And I feel like that genre of humor isn't harmful, but it programs you to gain joy from suffering in a way that we know from studies conservatives tend to do more than progressives do. And so if we're actively conditioning people to have their brains light up in the same way that we know conservatives' brains light up when interacting with certain stimuli, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's like worth knowing, right? Like, it's worth acknowledging that for a lot of people out there, you can't attract them with honey, you got to attract them with vinegar. You have to be mean to attract them. They want to see someone get, like, bullied. Like, there has to be blood sports. And I think Asmongold's a good example of that. The only way Asmongold ends up ever getting swayed out of this is if a bigger bully comes along and starts ruining a bunch of conservatives' lives in a really funny way. That will sway him. If conservatives' lives start getting ruined and they start complaining about it in a funny way, a way that is funny if you think in a cruel sense that, like, when bad things happen to people, it's funny, that will actually sway people. I know that sounds crazy, but it will. And I'm not talking like that one girl that got murdered by an illegal immigrant, right? Like, that situation polarizes people to the right. I'm talking like if a bunch of conservatives lose their jobs, right? Because, like, I'm curious to see if Asmongold starts laughing about conservatives losing their jobs as all these companies start to have to do mass layoffs due to tariffs. I'm very, very curious. Anyway, like I said, or actually, as Asmongold said, your suffering is porn for Trump supporters. It is literally like porn for the average MAGA person. You need to gain as much joy from their suffering as they do from yours if you want any hope of not only surviving the next 4 years, but doing what they've done successfully enough to counter their misinformation narrative that they have dominated the media space with. Love and truth does not win over algorithms. Hate and rage bait does. The left needs to learn how to utilize it without giving up everything that makes the left worth being a part of and worth supporting. Which is really the hard part, right? The right's lack of any morals is what allows them to do anything anything whatsoever, lying, cheating, whatever it may be, as long as it means they win. Because they don't actually have morals, but we do, and this means that we get into moral quandaries over what we should and shouldn't do in order to win. And that is one of the left's biggest weaknesses. But I assure you, the right puts not even a brain cell of thought into what is morally good or bad if it means they still win. If it means they win, then they should do it. That is how they think. Anyway, if y'all enjoyed this segment, if you thought it was entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way, then consider leaving a like and a comment. It is actually the best way to support my channel because it's totally free, costs no money, and only takes a second, but every time you leave a like and a comment on any of my new videos, especially if you do it on a bunch of them, it boosts my channel in the algorithm every single time. So I really do appreciate it so much to everyone who does that. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos, because believe me, if you don't, they won't. And of course, finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some Xander Hall custom merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support me though, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.